Welcome back, everyone. We're jumping right into session 3 of our series today, taking a close look at our source material to see how we can transform vague, often totally overwhelming cost-cutting mandates into highly actionable, data-driven targets. If you've ever stared at a budget sheet and wondered where to even begin trimming the fat without accidentally cutting into the muscle, well, you're in the exact right place. Today, we're going to use a structured analytical funnel to zero in on exactly what matters. So, here's our game plan as we move down the funnel. First, the 3 standards of measurement. Second, gap analysis and opportunities. Third, finding real improvement targets. Fourth, prioritizing those tasks. And finally, designing actionable KPIs. Let's get to it. Starting right at the top of the funnel with section 1, 3 standards of measurement and establishing our baseline. When evaluating performance, we actually have to juggle 3 different metrics at the exact same time: the theoretical ideal, the standard operating baseline, and the actual real-world results. If you're only looking at your actual numbers, you're essentially flying blind. You absolutely have to compare where you are against your everyday standard and that mathematical ideal to really grasp the whole picture. Let's unpack that theoretical standard for a second. It is super important, remember, that this isn't your immediate, hey, let's hit this by tomorrow morning target. Not at all. It is the ultimate, mathematically perfect baseline. It assumes 0 unnecessary loss and absolute peak efficiency. It's essentially a ceiling showing us the maximum possible potential, not a weapon to use against the production team when they inevitably fall short of total perfection. And honestly, that's exactly why discrepancies pop up. That flawless, theoretical design exists in a complete vacuum. But our actual day-to-day operations, they deal with the incredibly messy reality of factory life. You've got equipment wear and tear, raw materials that constantly fluctuate in quality, human variance. And you know what? That difference is totally normal. Moving right along to section 2, gap analysis and opportunities, or as I like to think of it, finding the space for growth. Okay, big mindset shift required right here. A gap, which is literally just your actual result minus a theoretical standard, is absolutely not a failure. Actually, scratch that. It's not just not a failure, it is the literal definition of your maximum opportunity for cost reduction. If your theoretical ideal is 0.030 and your actual is 0.035, you have a gap of 0.005. That 0.005, that is your playground. It's the maximum potential space you have to create real savings. But to actually close that gap, we can't just run out to the floor and yell, work harder. We have to dig into the structural causes behind it. The source material highlights a fantastic rule of 3 here. Production factors like machine downtime, inventory factors like holding excess stock, and organizational factors like departments just not communicating. A gap is rarely just one thing going wrong. It is almost always a combination of those 3 structural pillars. Getting into the middle of the funnel now with section 3, finding real improvement targets by aggressively filtering out the noise. It's a super tempting thought, right? You found a gap, so you just deploy a team and fix it. We look at every single gap on the spreadsheet, and suddenly, everything is a target. But wait, does every single gap automatically become an improvement target? Think about the sheer amount of resources that would require. No, they don't. To actually survive our analytical filter and become a true target, an issue has to hit 3 mandatory criteria. First, it needs a structural cause, not just some random one-off fluke. Second, it has to occur repeatedly over time. And third, it absolutely must have a substantial impact on actual costs. If a gap doesn't hit all 3 of these, it is just noise. Let's filter this down even further in section 4, prioritizing improvement tasks and allocating those always limited resources. We've got to prioritize our surviving targets using another strict rule of 3. 1, execution capability. Can we do this right now, or is it going to require $1 million capital investment? 2, impact. Does this actually move the needle financially? And 3, urgency. If we wait on this, are we risking safety or a complete production halt? To really anchor this in reality, let's contrast 2 extremes. Think about the massive difference between shutting down a highly hazardous, high-pressure steam leak on the floor versus, say, replacing the break room lights with LEDs next quarter. The steam leak? High urgency, high financial impact. You do it today. The LED lights? Sure, it saves a couple of bucks, but it's low urgency and low impact. It can totally wait. By mapping these decisions out, management can see exactly where to deploy their people first. High urgency, high impact, immediate action. But what about low urgency with high impact, like implementing a massive new AI automation system?
That is a strategic project. You need to take your time and plan that out. The whole point is to stop yourself from wasting premium engineering resources on low-priority distractions.
We made it! Section 5, Designing Actionable KPIs, the very bottom of our analytical funnel.
Look, a highly effective KPI is not just a corporate buzzword. It literally has to contain 3 distinct elements to work: a specific target value, a clear measurement method, and a strict time frame. If it's missing even one of those things, I promise you, it is not a KPI. It's just a friendly suggestion. This perfectly demonstrates what I mean. Saying reduce steam usage is a wish. It sounds fantastic in a meeting, but how does an engineer actually act on that? They can't. However, saying a reduced steam usage from 0.037 to 0.032 tons per ton by December 2026, boom, now that is a KPI. We just took a vague corporate wish and turned it into a precise, realistic, numerical goal. And you have to chain these goals directly to specific departments. A massive corporate goal for cost reduction has to be split up. Production gets the yield improvement KPI, purchasing gets raw materials. Because if a KPI is just broadly assigned to everyone, then absolutely nobody is actually taking accountability for it. Because as the source material brilliantly reminds us, cost reduction is completed in execution, not in analysis. All this matrix mapping and data crunching, it is completely meaningless without boots-on-the-ground execution. The funnel gets you to the starting line, but execution runs the race. So, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on regarding your own operations. If your current KPI cannot be objectively tracked with hard data, and it isn't owned by a specific team with a strict deadline, is it really a goal or is it just an illusion? Thanks for tuning in to this explainer for Session 3, and I really hope this analytical funnel helps you turn those operational illusions into hard, executed reality.